Welcome back everyone to the Gen Y Investor. Thank you once again for tuning in. So we've just added a new stock to our portfolio, Baby Bunting, which trades on the ASX. Why did I buy into Baby Bunting? Well, we're going to go over that today. We're going to talk about some of the stories associated with this stock that heavily swayed my decision. As I've always said, stories have a huge influence on markets, probably more of an influence on markets than the fundamentals in this day and age. But we're also going to take a look at some of the iffy financials that aren't too bad. They make me confident enough with my decision, but definitely still worth talking about and having a look at, I think. So we've got three main stories that we'll talk about first. The first one is the fact that they're expanding to New Zealand. Now, this was announced about July last year. We saw a little bit of an uptrend, but it wasn't anything too major, and I think that's going to really grow over the next few years. Then secondly, we've got the fact that there's a baby boom coming. We had COVID, the lockdown, etc., etc. That's really going to spike growth rates in the near future. I've got a friend that's girlfriend's a nurse, and she said they're expecting ridiculous amounts of babies coming soon. And what do babies need? They need cots, they need prams, things like that. They can get them all from Baby Bunting. So that should see some nice growth as well, I think. And thirdly, we've got the fact that there's no real competitors that I could find to Baby Bunting. Not in Australia anyway. So with no competitors, we should be able to see a stable growth rate without something outside of this world affecting it too much. So they're the three stories that I was really, attracted to. We'll go over some of the financials now, and you probably will note that it does look a little bit overvalued just in regards to the PE value and stuff, which I'll talk about. But that's the market that we live in these days. You only have to look at Tesla with a PE ratio of 160-ish, which is just sky high. No one's going to wait 160 years for a return on their money. They're expecting growth from the company because of all these stories. So Baby Bunting makes me, I feel a lot better investing in Baby Bunting than Tesla, let me put it that way. But let's take a look anyway. Okay, let's just take a look at some of the financials for Baby Bunting. We'll talk about what's scaring me a little bit, but I don't think it's too concerning. So we're trading at $5.77 a share, which is not too bad. Little decline today, but we don't care about that too much in the long run. So what's interesting is that the PE ratio is extremely high. You can compare that to other Australian retailers like JB Hi-Fi, Harvey Norman. They're both 15-ish. Generally, we like to see our PE ratios between 10 and 20. So the fact it's 64 is little bit concerning, but I think we can get over it just due to all those other points that I made before. I see considerable growth in it over the next couple of years. In saying that, this probably was the most speculative share I've bought into in quite a while. So the reason that PE ratio, I'll just backtrack a little bit. For those that don't know what a PE ratio is, it's a price to earnings ratio. So it's just the price of the share divided by your earnings per share to give us this figure. Earnings per share is obviously just your earnings, your profit, divided by shares outstanding. So how many shares the company's allocating. It's the EPS that's low that's really causing that to be high. Is it cause for concern? Probably not, considering the bubble we're in. This is just sort of what you got to put up with at the moment with buying and selling. Tesla's in the thousands. A lot of the tech companies are high hundreds. So 64 doesn't need to scare us off, I don't think. We'll just have a look at something else I thought was quite noteworthy. The revenue's good, and they're making earnings. They're in the positives. There's not a lot of debt. But you will just note here, so revenue again up from 2019 to 2020. Had a really good year 2018 to 2019. Earnings were down ever so slightly, and the increase from 2019 to 2020 wasn't as significant as what it was from 2018 to 2019. But this is just this graph doing weird things. How do I straighten this out? I'm going to go 5 years, so we're in 5 years. Yeah, so 2018 to 2019 didn't rise a lot. And then from 2019 to 2020, it just exploded. And then we obviously had the COVID spec, which lowered it quite a bit, the price, and it's just exploded since. So quite interesting from that standpoint, that their most successful year was from 2018 to 2019, and we didn't see a big jump in earnings. We saw a big jump in earnings. We didn't see a big jump in the share price. But then 2019 to 2020 wasn't as significant, and it's just rocketed. So, I mean, that seems to be what happens with a lot of share prices, to be honest. It just doesn't really seem to coincide with earnings quite often. We do find that it's a lot more related to stories and things like that. So not too much of a reason for concern. I just thought that was quite interesting. I do like the RSI indicator, which sort of tells us whether the stock's overbought or underbought, because that can generally, if it's being underbought, you'll generally see a little spike in uptrend in the price after that. So this is sort of my buying philosophy at the moment. I'm buying low and then selling high or holding for a while. So I looked at this RSI, waited for a little dip. Might need to narrow that range a little bit here. Just go 1 month. So when did I buy here? I just waited for that to dip. The RSI went to about 49, as you'll see on the bottom left-hand side. And then we bought in. We've seen a nice little short-term gain, which we like to see. Like I said, anything above 80, I'm getting concerned. Tesla's constantly rising above an 80 RSI. Anything under 20 is a good opportunity to jump in, I think. But I don't see this getting much lower than 50, the RSI. So yeah, bought in and happy with my decision. So hopefully this video was informative to some of you. As always, do your own research, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks, guys.